Hello, fellow filmophiles. Are you frequenting the media platforms looking for that next special podcast that'll get you in the mood or find you the right movie to watch for your special night? Well, guess what? You should check out Torn Reels with Andy as the host and his brother Sean as the co-host. You can never go wrong with whatever subject they bring up next. Wake up, bitches. It's Saturday, and welcome to another fantastic episode of Our Corner, the only podcast that can go Super Saiyan. I'm your host, Aaron, and with me today is the main man himself.
Did you just do a spirit bomb for
I
Super
did.
Saiyan?
I did.
Why would you do that?
Because I gotta give Goku my energy, dog. You know how it is.
You give your energy to Akira. You selfish bitch. Sean, by the way.
Why?
Why
did you call?
Because Akira's the one that died, not Goku.
Yeah. Goku does the spirit bomb.
They all do the spirit bomb to pass energy.
If you,
I'm not even a fan of Dragon Ball Z, my guy. What are you doing?
If you didn't know,
this episode's in shambles already.
So we're gonna have to do a really good recover on this.
Like, damn, bruh.
If you don't know, the what happened recently is a tragedy. As of March 1st, Akira Toriyama has passed away.
Akira.
Oh my God! What the fuck is wrong with
Akira Toyota has passed away.
Dude, we're doing it at 7:30. I'm in a slump. Let's fucking roll. Akira Toriyama.
Y'all just
passed
heard this.
away.
We're doing it at 7:30, and this dude is like. Anyway,
he passed away at 68 years old due to an acute subdural hematoma.
For those people who don't know, it's blood clot in the head.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't know. I was just pretending. I'm sorry.
You didn't know what a subdural?
No, I didn't. I was sitting here. I was going to lean on you for that one. I was really hoping
you were like, hey, bro.
Yeah. I looked at you when I said that, and I was all, he's going to say it. He's going to say it.
I did. For those people who don't know, it's a blood clot in the brain, and it causes some type of hemorrhaging. And again, I'm not a PhD or fucking MD or philosophy or whatever. I'm just trying to just tell you whatever shit that I think I know about this. So I'm not an expert. Sorry. Anyway.
No, and clearly I'm not an expert because I fucking made 6 mispronunciations like just off the bat. 7, actually.
7,
yeah.
Considering now.
Yeah.
Acura Toyota. That
do me a favor, Gentech. Please keep the counter for the miss fucking 8, 9.
Wow,
10.
bro. Okay. Anyway, so I will be your new host for this episode
yeah.
because
I'm gonna pass the buck on because fuck.
Holy fuck. Anyway.
So with the passing of Toriyama, what
Toyota for the people who don't know.
For the passing of Tundra.
Anyway, okay, keep going.
It's actually a tragedy, but one of the things that he left behind was this huge, great legacy of Dragon Ball, and I kind of wanted to go over and just tell everybody just how much it has impacted not only me, but pretty much everybody.
Everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly say that with the most confidence in the world. Like, even in high school when I used to do wrestling, I had a bunch of, like, jock guys who were, like, the football players, who were fucking baseball players and everything, and DBZ everywhere, bro. Dragon Ball, everything, dude. And a lot of those people really loved, like, those characters, would watch it, like, religiously. They just wouldn't say it out loud to, like, their friends because their friend, like, it was all about the being cool thing. But what people didn't realize back then is that it was already cool. Everybody already liked it. Everybody was already into it.
Oh, yeah. There was nothing that you could say, like, I remember running home after school to make sure that I caught it because when you had daylight savings, they pushed that back.
Yep.
And so we would go home and every friend would move to their own house to watch the show. And then you'd meet back up in the middle of the street to talk about the show that you all didn't watch together, which is fucking weird.
That you all didn't watch, but you made fun of the nerds that watched it. But you were like, yeah, low key though.
There was only one other show that I did that with, and that was The Walking Dead, but that's a completely different subject in itself.
I thought you were going to say Teletubbies.
No. Actually, surprisingly, I never got to see Teletubbies as a kid.
I like Teletubbies.
But
it wasn't too bad.
moving back here to Dragon Ball, here's some really cool shit that how it impacts people so much, right? Get this shit. When a new episode of Dragon Ball dropped, cartel crime dropped for 2 days.
Yeah, it's them Hispanics, bro. We watch
Like,
Dragon Ball Z like we drink beer.
You know that you're in the right place if you go into a Mexican restaurant and you see like a fucking Dragon Ball figure with a sombrero. It's just fucking there.
Imagine how much Akira did that people were like, hey, the dope can wait for a second. Let me catch this episode of Piccolo real quick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Let me catch Goku real quick on this thing.
Speaking of Piccolo, did you know that
he wears Gucci shoes? I know.
He wears Gucci shoes, and he's Toriyama's favorite character.
He's Toriyama's favorite character?
Yeah. Goku follows shortly after, and I think the third place went with Tien. But
he has a very weird way of showing his favorite character love. He kills him like in every other 2 episodes.
Oh my God. He likes Piccolo because he's a really quiet character.
Yeah.
And he's very meditative, but like when you see the Dragon Ball Super movie that came out, Piccolo has that new yellow form.
Yeah.
And so that was like his favorite to kind of like put into that movie where he talked more and he had more like interaction.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I actually was really excited because while Piccolo wasn't my favorite, I definitely think that like after a certain point they just kept nerfing him and I was like, what the fuck?
Who was your favorite character?
You know what?
In Dragon Ball.
Vegeta.
Or the whole thing of Dragon Ball, not just Dragon Ball.
I loved the Saiyans. Vegeta was my favorite character, but ultimately, I always had a spot for Broly, the biggest, buffest, fucking legendary Saiyan. Like, of course, he'll never they never had him get to that God mode in like the shows or the movies, not yet. Anyways, I'm really excited to see that, but they have he's already like super strong and he's just like one of those characters that starts off with like a sleeper build in the original Broly movie and then he gets big.
Yeah.
And then even in the new style that they made, I liked how they added that touch of like what made him that way.
Right.
So it was really cool to kind of see that. I specifically remember, and you probably remember this too, you may not have seen the entire anime in its whole, but there's one part in that series that you remember, and that's when Goku goes Super Saiyan for the first time.
The very first time.
The very first time. Everyone freaks out, and no matter what, everybody talks about like, hey, the Super Saiyan Form 3 was a great one, and blah, but no one ever forgot when he went Super Saiyan. That shit hit so hard. Let me tell you, there's another anime called Yu Yu Hakusho. Inside one of their storylines, yeah, absolutely right. Fucking, I'm just saying gobbledygook, man, and it's fucking wild. But
I hate the references of Willy Wonka. I don't want to talk about Willy Wonka because of the fucking last episode.
Oh my God, yeah, let's move on, right?
Jesus.
In one of their series called The Dark Tournament, there's a character there that has long black hair. And then as he's powering up, his hair turns blonde, and the announcer goes, his hair went from black to blonde, which in fucking means that he just powered up and he's stronger now and more popular. And I was like, that's a fucking
it's a straight reference to
that's
it.
A straight reference. Yeah. But on top of that, Toriyama inspired so many other animes as well as other shows. It's fucking wild.
Avatar has the same not the same animated style, but relatively like bordering on the same animated style.
Absolutely.
When I don't know if you remember during a few episodes towards the end, he's having nightmares about the Fire Lord, and in one of those, he's animated like Dragon Ball Z, and they have all the Dragon Ball Z things with all the side characters looking like them. Like it's a huge tribute because he influenced so many people.
Oh, you think that's wild? There's another shonen magazine that he had that he actually, or not that he had, but the series Bleach. Mm-hmm. They actually were about ready, like his original storyline for Bleach, not Toriyama's, but the creator. His storyline had initially got rejected, and Toriyama encouraged him to be like, hey, don't give up, keep going, keep going, right? And so imagine that someone who is who could potentially be your competition,
right,
is working on another show, and you reach out to them and are like, hey, bro, keep it up, you've got something here.
Yeah, you could do this.
And so in Bleach, the characters, their bad guys, their main villains, take a lot from the actual Dragon Ball Z, and the creator even admitted to it because he was like, I've used his villains as inspiration for my villains.
Right.
he's like, maybe not the like the actual look of them or some of the styles, maybe some of the looks of them. I haven't seen Bleach. I'll be
But a lot of
100%.
the personalities and everything,
Right,
like that, like all
he's
the
like-
lessons that they learned are relatively the same. And everything like
Right.
that.
He's like the way that they're built where they're not only powerful, but they're very intimidating. They're very like
Overpowering of presence. And
right.
Like that.
And
Yeah,
so
I totally get that.
they are just, it's one of those things that like you have someone who is like, oh, let's face it, Toriyama has like one of the greatest series.
The greatest series, arguably.
Arguably. Not arguably, like let's argue about it, but like it
Yeah.
is so fucking wild. Like even people who don't really watch anime know Dragon Ball.
Yep.
And
The
it's-
only anime I watch is My Hero Academia, as most people know, but
and that is even taken from
Yeah,
Dragon
from
Ball. It
Dragon
has
Ball
a
Z.
lot of the actual, like you
Yep.
see when he starts powering up that key that's around him.
yeah,
has
it's all the same thing. Yeah,
has the exact same thing. The only thing is that I would say that while people say that everything, like all these other animes are taking from Dragon Ball, maybe that's true.
yeah, because Dragon Ball was the Black Sabbath of fucking anime.
It
bro.
absolutely was, because before then you had things like you had Astro Boy, like that was in the earlies that kind of moved
And look,
forward.
maybe he wasn't the first one to do it. Maybe he wasn't the first one to do it like that or whatever. But he arguably was the best one to do it that way.
Oh,
at the time,
absolutely.
which made it so palpable that it could transcend across every platform. Everybody you knew didn't know whether they admitted it or not, like Dragon Ball Z.
Look at
Same way.
look at the other animes that were out at that time, right? Again, you had Sailor Moon, you had
Great one. I love
absolutely great. You had Gundam, which was around for a minute. You had things like what was it, Tenchi Muchi or something like that. Yeah, I don't know, but that one came out. I remember seeing it briefly, and
I
that
think
one
you had
was just
Inuyasha was out at that time, right?
I think so. I think that one was
I think so.
That was a 99.
Naruto was out? No, Naruto.
No,
was not out
Naruto
yet.
drew actually. They drew direct inspiration.
Yeah.
So another one of those that I was about to reveal. Thanks for that transition.
Sorry.
No, you're good. It wasn't like, that's not sarcasm. I was like, a thanks for the transition, buddy. Came in with that assist. But Naruto and One Piece,
Oh yeah.
they
Yeah.
took a lot from it to the point where, like, if you look at Luffy, the main character of One Piece, he actually has a lot in common with Goku. And if you look at like Naruto, the same thing is that they have is that transformation. You know, they all have this kind of like, we're good guys doing the right thing.
Right.
It's a very wild thing to look at and see. Now, if you're also wondering, you're like, hey, that's great. They impacted a lot of animes, but they also touched on a lot of Western cartoons too.
Yeah.
Look at the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. They have one that's called Chicken Ball Z, where essentially they go Super Saiyan fighting each other in a karate tournament.
Family Guy references it. American Dad references it.
Absolutely.
South Park references it. Everybody references it. Again, go back
Codename
to-
Kid Next Door. Like, imagine the reach that you have, right? And like, yeah, sure, people do make fun of it. There are
Yeah,
a
of
lot
course.
of absolutely funny things about it. Like, why does it take you 20 episodes to get to the end of the table?
Yeah.
I don't understand that. But that's one of the things
Dragon
that
Ball was like designed for Netflix.
it was. Oh my God, it absolutely is. Holy shit.
Next episode.
Next episode, Netflix.
Binge-worthy.
Yeah. Next episode, binge-worthy shows and why we watch them.
And you start off and it's always Piccolo yelling right at the beginning or someone yelling at
Yeah, they're always doing the like powering up for like,
It's like every episode is a power up. Can you just like attack for once?
dude, that's such a fucking funny thing.
It
man.
is, dude. I was watching it. I was trying to watch it with my cousins like a long time ago, cousins on my dad's side, and we were just watching it. And I was like, we've been watching the same battle for 8 episodes, and they haven't even hit each other. Like, why are we doing?
They
this?
had the audacity to shush you too. They're like, "Hey, dude, be quiet."
Yeah, they're like, shh. I'm like, nothing's happening.
Yeah, you're just sitting there, and I rewatched the series like as I got older because I was like, "Oh, I can afford it." I bought the box sets. You remember I had those box sets?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember that.
And I watched them straight through, and like for like the first like what is it like 6 seasons? It was like fucking straight through. And then you get to the Frieza saga, which I could totally have those seasons off. It's been a minute.
The people who are looking at us weird right now, who are like, why did he buy a box set? This was before all the streaming services. We only had Netflix at the time. And Netflix was No,
all
pretty
right.
much the same way
Yeah.
as it is now. Kind of like shitty.
Only except you could password share, which is what they advertised.
Oh, I can still password share. I get around that. Hey. Anyway.
Hey, if you're listening, Netflix, no, we don't.
Yeah. Hey, Netflix. No, we don't. Sponsor.
But
Thank you.
it's cool to kind of think, because even though, like, when you were a kid and the gym jocks and everything like that,
Yeah.
they like Dragon Ball, they kind of hid it away.
Yeah.
Now you go into any gym and there's always
Oh,
a
and
dude
it's
with
active.
a Saiyan
Yep,
shirt,
bro.
or they have like
Yep.
Vegeta, or they have like
Yep.
Goku. They have something.
People are thick into that shit. Like, again, I'm into like a lot of the combat sports and stuff, so I'm watching a lot of these competitions where they're doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, freestyle wrestling, and they all have like the rash guards. They're all like Dragon Ball characters. There's one where
Yeah.
it's literally Piccolo. Like the shirt is Piccolo. Like it's designed just like his skin and his fucking shirts and shit
Yeah.
like that. And it's a rash guard. It's something that you use for competition. It's fucking awesome. It's so
There's-
cool how it went through everybody.
And that's the thing, is that there's nothing that unites people more, and it's nothing that unites people. There's nothing more awesome than seeing something that unites a bunch of people, because
and it united everybody the exact same way, from the guy that lifts weights to the smelly nerd. It was the exact same way. Everybody fit in.
you could sit there and talk about Dragon Ball with between these two people, because that's the only thing that they really had in common. The other guy's sitting there like busting out weights, and the other guy's sitting there chucking dice. But here's the thing, like, when you bring that together and you have that kind of touch and like out there, it really gets your mind going, like what kind of person that he was able to A, create something that did this, and B, to have that to where he not only inspired but encouraged
Other people to do
this. That to me is like the absolute like stroke of genius, but also is what makes you such a great human being. That's why this is such a tragedy.
Right.
Like if
And
he was a douchebag, I'd be like, you know what? He created Dragon Ball Z. It was a great thing.
But he's a fucking
yada
asshole.
yada yada. Yeah, I heard he wasn't that great a dude, but
Yeah.
he left something behind. But like, imagine that every fan you meet, you're really like excited to meet them.
And it shows the loyalty of the fans, because the day that he died, or like the day after, whatever, when they did the whole memorial for him, they did the spirit bomb where they were like, "Give your energy to Akira."
yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, "That's fucking."
I
dope.
actually
And
remember
everybody
seeing
did
that.
Yeah,
and now I
everybody
know
did
why you said that at the beginning of this. I was
Yeah,
like, oh,
everybody
shit.
did it. It was just like, and I can relate this to
Oh,
a
they
few.
in different countries they did it
Oh, yeah.
too. It was
Oh,
was
yeah.
all over. Like people were paying tribute, and you
Everybody
could
was.
see it. Like there was one that was like Puerto Rico.
Everybody
I think they
was.
shut down for a second, right?
They shut down to celebrate Akira, and that's the thing. I can relate that to a lot of other franchises. Like everybody remembers when Alan Rickman died, or when what is it? I can't remember the guy's name, but the guy who plays fucking Professor Dumbledore, and they were like, "Hey, raise your wands."
Yeah.
And everybody did it, and it was every country that was fucking raising their wands because it was Harry Potter.
man.
Like that's
Those
a loyal
are
fan
things.
base.
That's why I love kind of talking about not only the pop culture but the nerddom and everything like that, because it's not just nerddom.
Yeah, it's
All
it
it
goes
is
everywhere.
just everyone doing their own thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really cool to think about how you can kind of
How
be in
weird
this
you
thing.
are. How weird you are. It's
You
it's
let your,
unique how weird you are.
You let your freak flag fly. But in the
Good
meantime,
alliteration.
yeah, it was hard. That one was hard. There was like 3 fucking Fs, one back to back, and I was like, "Oh my god!"
report card, bro. Anyway, keep going.
Yeah, actually, because I was watching Dragon Ball instead of studying.
No, I said my report card, not yours.
Oh, I was thinking mine.
You got that confession, bro.
Nobody watched this.
I had to pay off my teachers, dog. They were doing some
but
freaky shit.
Think about it, man. Like, this inspired a toy line that continues to this day to the statues that are like
Video
$600.
games,
that people-
everything, bro.
Video games?
How far?
movies, video games,
fucking everything, dude. Everything that he did,
dude.
All the
Even
stuff.
to the point where your films made it to theaters in other countries. Like, imagine, and this is why I'm so passionate, and I keep saying imagine for a second, put yourself in a position.
Oh yeah, no,
of,
it's
like,
incredible, bro.
your inner child seeing the transition from like when you first watched him like fight as a kid, because I wasn't old enough to watch the original Dragon Ball series. I came out with Dragon Ball Z being the first series that I watched.
You literally
So,
came out.
I
I'm sorry, but no, I totally get you. Like,
no, not on camera.
no, I totally get you. But there's only a select few people like that achieve that. Like, even one of them, like, unfortunately, is gone too. Stan Lee. Stan Lee was the same way, where he transcended as far, pretty much in the reaches that people couldn't even dream of. Same thing with Akira. Akira touched everybody in some way. Everybody has a character,
But not
an
in a bad
episode.
touch way.
Yeah, not in a bad touch. Not the R. Kelly way.
Not the priest way.
Like the dope way.
Yeah.
Not the priest way. I hate you. But like everybody has a character, an episode, a saying, a something from Dragon Ball that everybody like is their favorite.
Oh, absolutely. Do you happen to have one?
I have a favorite character, and it's also Vegeta.
It's also Vegeta.
Yeah, no matter what.
Baddest motherfucker alive.
And again, mine's probably for a different reason. I don't like him because of the anger. I like him for his determination. Like, no matter what, I'm gonna keep doing this. I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep going. And then when they fuck with his wife in the last one, and he's you fucked with my, and
where he just like immediately starts like fucking going crazy.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't give a fuck. I was like, dude.
And believe it or not, a lot of people are gonna find this shocking, but his humility. The fact that I was watching an episode with Andy where Goku goes, Ultra Instinct, and like he's down and out and everything like that, and Vegeta just fucking hollering. It's like, bro, come on, man. Like, you can do this shit. This is nothing. It's like
take him out.
And all the gods are like talking shit, and Vegeta's like, bro, that's funny. Like, I'm hearing you talk shit. That's fucking hilarious because you have no clue what the fuck he's capable of. You have no clue what he can do. You have no clue how hard I've tried to beat this guy. How all the shit that I've gone through.
How many like actual people he's been through.
Yeah.
Like, how close to death, if not already dying, did he have to go through? Like, imagine for a second, right? Because in their lore, there was two people that Frieza was told never to fight. Frieza being one of the strongest in the universe. That was, you don't fight Majin Buu. And you don't fight Beerus. And when they brought back Frieza, the first thing they said was, yeah, Goku beat Majin Buu. Like, and fucking Frieza was just like, shit his pants. Like,
didn't he also beat Beerus as well?
He didn't beat Beerus. He fought Beerus, and that was kind of where that went. But that's he fought Beerus to a point where like Beerus beat him, but it was like Beerus was like, yeah, no, you're good, dog. Like,
yeah.
So Wiz started training them to get them to that next level and kind of push them to that point. And they started really getting good to the point where Mastered Ultra Instinct might be Goku's, but what was Vegeta had one? It was like Primal?
It was like Primal.
Ultra Ego.
That's right.
Ultra Ego. Thank you.
Yeah. Where he's just
and then
like,
where
fuck
he's,
this.
Yeah. And the reason why I'm a big fan of Vegeta isn't necessarily the anger. Yeah, anger really kind of is like his thing.
Yeah.
But there's a thing that he does that he says. He says that he is the prince of all Saiyans, right?
Yeah.
Well, his dad was the king of Saiyans, but his dad's no longer around. What happens to a prince when
he becomes the king?
Why doesn't he call himself the king?
Because he knows who the real king is.
Yeah, so he sits there and he calls himself the prince of all Saiyans, and he continues with that. On top of that,
that's what I'm saying.
But he has the hardest lines. Like, Goku might have a few like really hard lines. Like when he fights Frieza, Goku says, "I am the hope of all of the universe." Like that shit goes hard. But nothing compares to when Vegeta's talking to Buu and he says, "You might have entered my mind. Like, you might have control of my body, but there's one thing a Saiyan always keeps, and that is his pride." That shit fucking slaps. Oh, yeah. Let's not forget during the entire Cell series when he talks to Android 18 and he says, do machines feel fear? Like, holy shit. Or wait, was it 18 or was it 19? The fucking clown looking one.
Is it Android 18?
I think it's the clown looking one. Yeah, it's the clown. It's 19? Looking. Yeah.
No, I can't remember which one it is.
15. You think it's 15?
I'm sorry, Andy's in the background.
15
he's kind of helping us.
15 is
like
the redheaded
expert
one, though. Are you sure?
No, the redheaded one is 19.
It doesn't matter whatever teen it is.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Oh my God, you're right.
Yeah, it's 19.
The
19.
point is is that fucking
he had the hardest lines.
He had the hardest lines.
He had the hardest lines.
I agree.
Not to mention, he threw hands. You remember him beating the shit out of Gohan at the end of the fucking Frieza saga?
I don't remember because I didn't see that part.
Oh, yeah, he grabbed the kid by the fucking top of the head, was just wailing the fuck on him. Like, it didn't matter who you were. You could catch those hands if you wanted.
You know what's funny? I think now that I'm thinking about it, like, I mean, obviously that's the point, or maybe it was the point where Akira made Goku have like in that same episode I was looking at the people who were rooting for Goku. They were all his enemies at one point, and even Andy pointed it out. All his enemies were now on his side, and I think with the comment that you mentioned earlier, where Akira was talking about all the other competition that he had.
Yeah.
I think that he did that in a way in real life, that he did what Goku did. All his competition was like, all right, bud.
Yeah.
We're rooting for you because
I don't know if
you were
he
the one.
actually had any enemies. Like, that's the thing, is that he had so many people that he inspired and talked to that it was just like, even if you didn't like the guy,
Yeah.
like, I don't know who didn't like him. I didn't meet him personally, but I can, just from hearing stuff like that, you have this notion of it that,
Yeah. And arguably, what's the other most popular anime other than Dragon Ball right now? Or ever?
ever, oh man, that's a loaded question.
Was it like what Naruto's
So
other
you
one,
have
right?
so you have Naruto, Bleach, and One Piece.
So now
those
imagine-
are the four that kind of like,
So now imagine if Naruto, if we put in perspective of the characters, if Naruto is like Vegeta, and Naruto calls themselves supposedly like they're really good and everything like that, but I doubt. I think if they were in the same position, they'd call themselves like the prince of anime, because
Yeah.
they know who the real one is. It's Akira,
right.
And
No,
like
absolutely,
it
but-
transcends into that real life metaphor from Dragon Ball, like how he was able to win over everybody and how he was able to do all that, climb all those adversities. And I'm talking about Goku, not Vegeta.
Yeah.
Goku.
it's a very cool thing to kind of see, and it's a very cool thing that I know that you have such inspiration that your character was put into Fortnite.
Yeah.
Your character was put into, like, there's like a blending of all the games
Yeah.
that they kind of put him in. Like, there's characters that didn't make it in there.
Yeah.
And that's crazy to think that, like, there are characters that don't make it in.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, imagine your character always being included. For God's sakes, 2023 Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade had Goku as a float.
Yeah.
Like, you're talking, like, on the other
Homie,
side of the planet.
UFC didn't do this officially, but all the fighters who have podcasts and stuff, or who were on podcasts and showed up for like after or right around the time of Akira's death, all said the reason I wanted to become an MMA fighter wasn't the fighters, wasn't Chuck Liddell, wasn't that, it was Goku. It was Goku. I wanted to look like Goku. I wanted to fight like Goku. I wanted
Yeah.
to be Goku. I wanted to be a fucking superhero. And when I knew that I couldn't do it possibly, I at least was gonna figure out some of the shit that they could do.
Didn't UFC also promote the the Brawley movie?
I think they did for a while.
I think
they,
there was like a Dragon Ball, like,
Yeah,
where they
I think-
promoted Dragon Ball for a second. I was like,
I think they had it on their ring for a while and everything like that. And I know that Israel Adesanya was like involved heavily with like a lot of the anime promotions that they had for a while. Because I know
Yeah.
that they did a bunch of shorts where they had anime hair and everything like that, and a lot of people thought those were like edits, but those came from like UFC and stuff.
oh
like that.
yeah, man. And I gotta be 100% candid on this. Like, I love this fucking series. This is the series that I think of when I think anime.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, when that also happens, the other thing is that, like, while Toriyama, like, ultimately encourages people to make their own thing, when you're on that top, man, it's hard to, like, look at other animes and be like, yeah, that's a good anime, because you have that comparison to strictly you're like looking at Dragon Ball, like, how does this compare to this?
I don't think so, man. Think about all the greats. Think about all the greats, not just in anime, but think about all the greats everywhere. Kobe Bryant, he would give his props to people. He'd be like, all right, you're a good fucking player. Michael Jordan, same thing. A lot of football players, fighters, and everything like that. You see where they're like, even though you're like the best in the world, they're like, okay, all right.
Oh, see, I'm talking about, like, as a fan, you're looking at other animes and comparing them. Like, you're sitting there, like,
okay.
looking at Dragon Ball, being like, hey, this is the top. This is where the fuck it's at, right?
Oh, because you said
And then-
as you're sitting at the top, how do you look down? And I was like, well,
Oh, no. As you're sitting there looking at the top,
Yeah.
it's like, then you look at other animes, like, just off the cuff, right? You said My Hero Academia, and you're like, I have to compare that to Dragon Ball because I love Dragon Ball, and that's me personally.
yeah. I was like, I've never watched Dragon Ball all the way.
You're like My Hero Academia, 100%.
But here's wait, hang on. That's how impressionable Akira is. I know for a fact that Dragon Ball is way better than My Hero Academia. That's the reason why I'm trying to go back to watch Dragon Ball and do all that stuff. But I knew that before watching either show. I already knew that Dragon Ball was better,
So-
and that's just from Akira.
This is what's got me kind of gobsmacked right now, right? Is that you are not an anime fan
Absolutely
by any stretch of the imagination.
Minus My Hero Academia.
Minus
as we've
My
done.
Hero Academia. but you are to the point where you're like, I gotta see it.
Yeah.
I have to see it. It's
Oh, yeah.
like it's weird to kind of like imagine you sitting there watching Dragon Ball, because for like decades we've talked to you about this.
Yep.
Well, for 8 years, because we've known you for about 8 years.
Yeah.
But for 8 years we've always kind of dropped hints. Even Andy from Torn Reels was like, yo, bro, you got to see it.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was Dan and Andy who sat me down and said, you have to watch it, My Hero Academia, bro. You have to watch it.
And you did.
And I had to. Yeah.
And since then we've
I
we've
love
showed you scenes from a bunch of different animes like Baki, where you're like, oh shit.
But I didn't like Baki. That's the thing.
No.
There was a lot of animes that a lot of people like recommended to me, and I didn't like them, and I was like, I can't get into this and everything. But
see,
My Hero,
that's one of those things too, is that a lot of people recommend what they like,
Yeah.
without realizing like who you are.
I think the only other anime that I really, really like, and not surprising, it's from Studio Ghibli. It's fucking House Moving Castle.
Howl's Moving Castle was a
I
good
love
one.
House Moving Castle, and my mother and Andy overplay it, and they play it all the fucking time. But even though they play it, I fucking love it. And my favorite character is Calcifer. Before we go anywhere,
My favorite Ghibli movie is Adventures of Earthsea.
I don't know more than House Moving Castle. Sorry,
Yeah.
bro.
No, you're
That's
good.
where I'm at.
You're good. So Adventures of Earthsea is kind of like a fantasy-based one, and it's actually based off of a whole fantasy book series that came out prior. It's just animated by Ghibli Studios, which is wild. I actually really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Cool thing that I really enjoyed growing up with Dragon Ball was the toys.
Yeah, the toys are pretty dope.
They had, if you don't recall, there's like these little launchers that they had where they had the spaceships, and you put them inside the little capsules, and when you hit the bottom of the capsules, they fly up. Well, the ship opens up, and you have the little miniature inside. That shit to me was dope, because you could just like fucking launch them, and they'd go up, and they'd come back down. It didn't matter where they landed. They were made out of steel.
And not just that, you had the ones where they had the ball that attached to their hand, so they would actually fucking shoot it out.
Yeah,
that shit was dope.
I had like 3 or 4 of those, dude. I had Frieza, I had Piccolo, and I had Gohan.
I think if I can go back and watch Dragon Ball, I'll probably buy a bunch of like figurines for like my desk.
Yeah,
Stuff
dude,
like
it's
that. The
worth it.
podcast studio.
I'm gonna be 100% like candid, dude. I wouldn't tell you to buy a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
but watch the show, buy the products. Not because I'm like, oh, I'm fanboying, I'm
No,
slobbing
because
on.
it's good. It's good overall.
It's good, and the quality of the stuff that they sell for that is always good. Like
always
I've never
hear-
had a complaint with any of their toys. Like they never like broke unless you were avidly trying to break them.
The only complaint I've ever heard about Dragon Ball is that there's so many filler episodes.
There's a lot,
But from what I also hear, those filler episodes, most of them are necessary for the rest of the story to be able to envelop the whole thing. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's pretty dope. Like if it's necessary, like that's dope.
Yeah.
Like me, I'm not a big fan of like, fucking fillers and everything like that, or filler episodes, but every
'cause,
now and then
like
they're
you
all
want
right.
to skip through them and
Yeah,
kind of do.
yeah.
There's a lot of necessary ones. There's some that I feel like aren't really necessary, but
Yeah.
people do it because they like the animation.
But if they have that same energy that My Hero Academia had and during their fillers, I'll be fine.
They do, but it's also one of those ones. I'm going to tell you right now as you're watching it, and to everyone else, if you haven't watched it, that you are going to watch it.
Watch it, motherfuckers.
At the Frieza saga, there is a lot of filler episodes, and there is a long progression of like episodes that just like you want to move on from or you want to skip. I urge you don't skip those just because the dialogue in there is really good.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you do skip them, you're not missing much.
Right.
You're going to find some shit in there that's like, oh, I should have went back. But they recap the whole episode prior to the next episode.
Reminds me of Dragon Ball should have done something like Full Metal Alchemist, where they had one version where it was like all the filler and stuff, and then they released a movie that was like basically the same 2 seasons without the filler.
Yeah.
It was just like compressed.
Dude, Full Metal did actually something really dope, and they have the original like Full Metal Alchemist, and then there's one that's like it's like Brotherhood.
Yeah.
And that one is the gore one, where it's like they have all of that shit in spades, where like you get to see people getting dismembered.
Yeah, but that's also the compressed one. That's the one that Tyler
Are
told
you-
me about too. It's a compressed one, right? Yeah. See, it's a compressed one. See, I know what I'm talking about.
I'll have to check
See,
that one.
without
because
being an
I
anime
think-
fan, I know that. Checkmate, bro. Hake.
DBZ Kai does that. Yeah, DBZ
that's right,
Kai is the
DBZ
one
Kai.
that's like broken down.
Yeah.
They also in DBZ Kai, I think they took off like the vulgarity where they like you had characters that would
vulgarity.
flip each other off. And like so like there's one in particular, Raccoon, who's part of like the Frieza Force. And he's just this big redheaded ginger dude. And he's just like
Looking at you.
like he's all fucked up and laughing and shit like that, like his teeth are missing, and then he's just like,
Looking at you.
ah,
I'm just kidding.
and he flips the guy off. He's like, oh, like that, right? And that's like, I'm just sitting there and I was like, there's a lot of characters that just be flipping each other off like throughout this series. Like that's fucking wild.
And that's a Super Saiyan fuck you.
Yeah. But imagine, dude, that's all I'm gonna say is that like imagine you miss out on this.
Oh yeah.
Like
I did
know
miss out on it.
No, you didn't.
I gotta go back and look at
because
it.
you knew. That's the
yeah.
thing is that like you miss out if you just purposely ignore it. You miss out if you don't talk to people about it.
Right. But I
Like,
talked to you guys. I have
yeah.
you guys and other friends that I had before.
What you don't miss out is when you're like, it's not really my thing, but I'll go check it out because I have confidence that like even though you're gonna have your complaints, you're gonna find plot holes and stuff like that. You're still gonna be a fan.
Yeah, because if it's good enough, even if it's good enough, it doesn't matter what's there, like the plot holes or anything. I'm willing to look over it if it's good enough. If like the storyline's good, animation's good, all that stuff. And from what I've just the very little I've seen of DBZ or of Dragon Ball and everything like that, it's great. It's fucking,
One last
I'm
plot
excited.
point I want to touch on. Dragon Ball Evolution, the movie, right? The terrible live action make that they made. The lead actor who played Goku came out and apologized for the movie upon Toriyama's passing.
You should apologize for being fucking born.
You
that
should have
abortion.
apologized way sooner. But yeah, it was actually, that was also something that they hated. They hated the way that it was made because...
Yeah.
It
As
was
long as
just-
it's not M. Night Shyamalan who made it, because he'll come back and say it's a beautiful piece of art and that people are over exaggerating.
Yeah, like
He
people...
did that with Avatar, and we're
Dude,
just like,
people
my
told
guy.
you it was a piece of shit and you don't believe them.
What in the fucking Quickie Mart are you talking about?
If you think that's crazy, numbers don't lie. It was a flop.
Yeah. Flop.
So, with that being the case, I think that's a good place to wrap up here. We'll see you on the next episode of Our Corner.
Bye, guys.